Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Donovan, and today we're going to do a little bit of an experiment with the ZTE Blade Max View. Specifically, I want to address a question that I got from a couple of different subscribers to this channel about this phone, specifically about how well it works on Verizon's network. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to do a couple of different things. So number one, we're going to run a couple of app tests on it, so LTE Discovery and Speed Test. So LTE Discovery, we'll just go ahead and go into that. You can see here that LTE Discovery will tell us what bands we're running off of, so it looks like we're running off of band 4, but then it also tells us our signal strength, and you can see here that it's at 110, and as that number gets lower you may see that signal change up here. So right now I'm getting 3 out of 5 bars. That's pretty typical for where I live, but 107, so that's pretty decent signal strength. The lower again that number is, the better your signal strength is, so it just went down to 110, so you might see those bars adjust, but that's pretty typical for where I live. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to run a speed test on it, and then I'm going to compare this to a couple of other phones. So before we do the speed test, or actually while we're doing the speed test, let me just go ahead and show you that it is currently on Verizon, and it's running LTE there. So we're going to go ahead and do that speed test, and let me just go ahead and tell you what we're going to do after this. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that exact same SIM card into this phone. This is the Google Pixel 3 XL, and just to show you right now with the Google Pixel 3 XL on T-Mobile, I'm getting about 4 out of 5 bars, it looks like, of service. And then we're also going to do the exact same thing with the iPhone XR. Now that LTE Discovery app will not work with the iPhone XR, so just a heads up there. But we're going to see what kind of speeds we're getting here in comparison to those other two devices, just to see if this phone is getting as good a speeds as what you get and as good a cell service, or at least signal service, as what we're getting on those other two devices. So this is what we ended up getting, so 23.1 download, 30.2 upload. Again, we're going to compare that up, but before we do that, let me just show you one other thing. If we turn data off, you will be able to see that right now we do still have service there. So that means you will be able to still get phone calls, you will be able to still get text messages when you have that data turned off. So just a heads up, this phone will work whether you have the data turned on or off, at least for phone calls and text messages. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch the SIM card into one of those other two phones and see how this phone compares up to the service on the other two. Alright, so I've removed the Blade Max View SIM card from Verizon out of that phone and into my Google Pixel 3 XL. So in terms of the LTE service, it looks like I'm getting roughly around the same number of bars, maybe just a little bit better over here. Generally I was getting 2 to 3 bars over here, and this one looks like it's more consistently 3 or 4 bars. And we're going to go ahead and go here into LTE Discovery, see if that's any different. So of course we're running on band 4 just like what we had on the Blade Max View. And then in terms of that number here, on the Blade Max View is typically hovering around 110 to 106, which it looks like it's about the same here. So if I come up here, it should be closer to like 3 bars now, which is about what I would say that looks like. But it just dropped down to 103, so I never got that number here on the Blade Max View. So maybe just slightly better service signal on the Google Pixel 3 XL. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a speed test, and I will show you one that I already did actually. So 108 megabits per second, whereas over here I was averaging around 30 to 40. Upload speed pretty much the same, but let's go ahead and run it one more time just to see what happens. So again, it's running off of the exact same SIM card I had over there on Verizon, and yeah, so there you go. It's definitely running about twice as fast. Now that is actually not necessarily about the service, that's more about the chipset that this phone has versus what the Blade Max View has. So because this is running a more budget friendly chipset, I would expect slower download speeds than what you can get over here on the Blade Max, or sorry, on the Google Pixel 3 XL. So while that's running, I will mention that the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw that into this phone as well. So this is the iPhone XR, and we're not going to be able to do that LTE Discovery app because again, it doesn't work on that phone, but we will do a speed test and just kind of check what the cell signal looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that SIM card out of this phone into the XR, and we'll continue on. Alright, so we got the Verizon SIM card into the iPhone XR now, and when we come up here to look at the cell service, it looks like we're getting 3 out of 4 bars. So again, I can't really tell exactly what that service is going to look like because LTE Discovery does not work on here, but look, we're going to go ahead and do the speed test now. And again, you can see here I'm using that same Verizon SIM card. We'll wait for that to get its servers, and let's go ahead and run that speed test and see what kind of speeds we're getting here. Now, I'd fully expect these ones to be more like what we got out of the Google Pixel 3 XL. Again, this is running a faster chipset. Now, this is running an Intel chipset versus a Qualcomm chipset. And rumor was that that would actually be not as good as what you get with that Qualcomm, but it looks like my speeds are pretty much the same as what I was getting with the Google Pixel 3 XL in terms of download speeds. So kind of the verdict is, as far as cell service goes, it looks like with the Blade Max View, we're pretty much getting the exact same cell service. I don't really notice any difference, and that's been true anywhere I go, pretty much whatever I've been getting with either of these phones. So I've used that Verizon SIM card with about 5 different phones because, yeah, unfortunately I have a lot of phones. Not unfortunately, but I'm blessed to have a lot of different phones. But generally speaking, the cell service on this phone has been pretty much the same, but obviously in terms of download speed, you're definitely not going to be able to get the same kind of download speed you can get at least with a higher end phone. Unfortunately, I don't have another quote-unquote budget-friendly phone I can compare it to that at least that works with Verizon Wireless, so we won't be able to do that. But in terms of the actual cell service that you're getting here on the Blade Max View, pretty much the same as what you're going to get on any other device. The difference is the download speeds won't be quite as good. So anyways, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.